What's up, everyone? This is Dan Estrada, and this is another episode of the Money Match Gaming Podcast with myself and my co-host Lance over here, or you might know him as The Infinite. So what's up, Lance? How you doing?
What it do, boy? What it do,
How's
boy?
everything going?
Good.
Good to hear.
Good. We're picking up a few features in our Money Match gaming life, and we're gonna start hosting money tournaments here soon. So if you're about
we'll talk more about that at the end in the plug section. But let's get right into the thick of things. If you're new to this podcast, this is the Money Match Gaming Podcast. We're going to be talking about movie news, music news, gaming news, whatever, the whole lot of it, the whole nerd gaming culture. We will be into it. We will be talking about it. And sometimes it'll be current events. Sometimes it'll be just questions and discussions. Today is kind of the question discussion thing. We're going to be talking about both of our probably I would say one of my favorite genres of games. Would you agree with me, Lance?
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. I think it's poorly utilized.
And we're going to talk about the turn-based RPG, and it'll probably end up being just the RPG genre as a whole and why they're moving away from the turn-based idea into more action RPGs. So let's get right into it. So the reason we're talking about this today is because Lance brought up that he believes that turn-based RPGs are dead. So Lance, I will let you get started off today.
All right. So I guess I'll explain it like this. So in the traditional sense of turn-based RPGs, they just don't exist the way they used to. Now, they keep making kind of similar, but not quite the same turn-based strategy games. You know, a lot of action JRPGs and stuff like that, which I do appreciate, just not as much as the traditional turn-based strategy games, like Final Fantasy X, like so many more. You know, I just don't want to go down like the long list of just things that I just appreciated as a child. I was never capable of beating those games as a child, but you know, I just enjoyed them. I enjoyed thinking. I enjoyed, you know, just the simple fact that I'm like not rushed, and you know, you have a difficult situation to where it's like you're solving a live in-game puzzle, you know, and it's just there's a lot to appreciate with it, and I think they're disappearing because they're not showing up the way they did back then. You know, I think with the growing graphics, with all the new different kinds of capabilities, you know, people make the assumption that, you know, people aren't interested in turn-based strategy games anymore, especially the way it was done in the past, and I just disagree. You know, I just really think that genre has a lot of untapped potential, and I wanted to talk about it today. You know, I just wanted to go into what makes this so popular and where some of the benefits of bringing that genre back to full force life, you know. I guess that's the easiest way to sum it all up.
I on the other hand, I mean, I do love turn-based RPGs. I think they're awesome. I've been playing them, you know, my whole life, dating back to one of my first video games that I ever completed. Pokemon is a classic example of a turn-based RPG. The only difference is it's only one party character rather than multiple, like you would see in like a Chrono Cross, Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario, something of that nature. I don't think that there's a problem with the amount of turn-based RPGs releasing. It seems like there's less, but there's also like a grander scape of all the games coming out. Like, if you compare the amount of games that come out now to then, it's insurmountable. Like, so many more games are coming out consistently, because it's not just big companies putting it out. You know, back in the 90s, 2000s, you had like the Sony games, you had the Nintendo games. You didn't have all these developers and then side developers and then the indie developers and everything making their own game, constantly pushing content out. So while it may seem like we're not getting a lot, we're actually getting quite a few. And even in like the past year, we've gotten Pokemon Sun and Moon. We've gotten whatchamacallit, Dragon Quest XI is coming out this year. We have Persona 5, Bravely Default, and Bravely Second. We've got if you want to go a more tactical route, you got the Fire Emblem games that come out yearly, as well as the mobile Fire Emblem game that just came out. So I think, on the other hand, that there's actually a good amount of turn-based RPGs that come out, but the thing is, the main AAA parties aren't doing that anymore because they feel their fan base, and probably rightfully so, wants to do the action combat, because that is, you feel more immersed in the character you're playing as in an action combat setting, I think, more so than a turn-based. That's where I feel from it. But
all right. Well, I need to add a clarification then. So it's not that I don't think that there are RPGs out there or that there's a decreasing amount of them. It's the traditional form of them. They typically have this Skyrim open world type of feel. Like, obviously it's really limited for, the frameworks that they used to have. So it was still a linear path, but you did still do some sorts of exploring. And I feel like a lot of that is gone. So, like you mentioned, a lot of these types of games that I feel more dungeon crawly than actual storytelling, open world kind of situations. And then the real gripe with me is kind of like the combat systems. They tend to be just, I don't know, kind of random and kind of gimmicky. You know what I mean? I guess that's like the other thing that pulls me away from it. Examples. So, oh man, I can't explain it the other way, because like as soon as I start playing the games, I just kind of go, this is not what I want, and my brain works in a certain way to where I just dump information, especially when it just rubs me in the wrong game. I don't have my stack of games here, but there's one that I bought for the PlayStation 4, because obviously PlayStation has
because they're tapped more into the JRPG market than Xbox is, because Japanese people actually like the PlayStation and hate the Xbox, so it is what it is.
Right. So it's like one of those situations to where I bought this game and it was like about like kind of fandom girls who powered up in suits and sang songs, and that made them power up. And
sounds like Final Fantasy X
it was so dungeon crawling. It was so dungeon crawling, and it just like the leveling up system was kind of like this weird grid, and it just felt like I couldn't power up in like a real sensible way. It looked like I kind of had to do a lot of research to kind of do my own thing. There wasn't very much information in the book for me to go, okay, well that's what that means, because they didn't even break up like the stats into attack power and defense power and blah blah blah. It was just like
arbitrary
power song.
Words.
And I'm like, yeah, to where it was like really abstract, like the definitions for things, and it just turned me off. I kind of just want to play the game. I want there to be skills. I want there to be some kind of limit break, and it's easier for me to describe it this way. So like one of my favorite RPGs, turn-based RPGs of all time, is Legend of Dragoon.
For the SNES,
It's easily one of my favorites. I don't remember what it was for. I remember playing it for the PlayStation.
Might be for the PlayStation. That's fair.
I played it for the PlayStation, so like regardless of where it was coming, I played it on the PlayStation. Right. I was too young to like do all that kind of research. And Google was limited back then. Limited, probably not in an extreme sense, but for me, in my feeble mind,
Gotcha.
It was limited, all right? And it's a linear story, where they have an easy system to understand that, like, obviously with a little bit more work could have a lot more depth. I think, they scratched the surface of that, and I was so upset that kind of disappeared. It was also with Chrono Cross as well. They had kind of like a combo set system to where you got to choose, like, how your enemy.
Right, yeah. I never played Chrono Cross. I played Chrono Trigger, which was the entry before that in the series for the Super Nintendo. I played a little bit of that, which was a really cool game.
Right. It's way more popular than Chrono Cross anyway.
They changed up I think they actually might have changed up the fighting styles in between the games, and that's what led to kind of the difference in fan bases for the two games.
Right. Right. And so, I just want to get back to that. Like there's so much depth that can be learned from that. And I guess that segues into it. So like the depth, Legend of Dragoon, if you're unfamiliar, was about basically power stones that turn people into dragons, and they are on this quest to save the world from like clashing clans, which would be like the elves and then the humans and stuff like that. And it's been a while since I played it. I never made it through these games as a child. They were just too hard for me, and I didn't buy a lot of games, so this was like kind of, I had it for 2 days and I played my heart out with it, and then it was gone because Blockbuster and Family Video were my thing. So, but it basically had like this kind of combo system to where it's like you got to pick your combo of your character, and they did different things. So some did more damage, some build your dragon gauge higher, and then they had like different elements like that, and then you turn into a dragon and you have more power and blah blah blah. You did leveling. The more you use the combo, the stronger it would get, and that was extremely limited because that would only level up once. Like, I don't remember any level past after you use the move 99 times, it's stronger. And they don't really give any specifics like that. But, like, I really want something like that. I want something like that
I
to
have
exist
something
again.
like that for you. And because you ask, and
Oh,
I
do
shall
you?
give to you. Do you have a Nintendo 3DS?
No.
You should get a Nintendo 3DS and
Poop
pick
dog.
up Bravely
Poop
Default
dog.
or Bravely Second. It is very similar to what you're looking for, whereas similar, it has like a kind of Final Fantasy-esque story. I mean, it is a game made by Square. You have these 4 main characters, but they're all... You can differentiate them by their outfits, and that changes their class. So, like, a black mage will wear a certain thing, and then you can spec them out to be, like, a thief, so they'll have their, like, thief outfit, and through their different outfits, it, like, changes their power. And it is a really, really, really good game. It is a turn-based RPG, just like what you're looking for. It doesn't feel... I didn't think it felt too dungeon crawly. I played the first one for a little bit. I played the demo. My 2 roommates had it when it first came out, and they were really both into it. And it's a cool game because you can actually kind of beat it at your own pace, almost like this newest Zelda game that came out, where you can go in any order, and technically you can beat it right at the start if you want to, but it's pretty impossible. But yeah, so I definitely would recommend checking out the Bravely series for you, because that is very similar to what you're talking about, I would say. I mean, granted, it's not exactly turning into dragons, it's just turning into different classes by costume changes, but it is a very, very good game, and a good turn-based RPG at that.
Well, I did look into Bravely 10 and Bravely...
Bravely Default.
Bravely
Default and Bravely Second.
Yeah, Bravely Default. Yeah, there we go. So I did look into those because my friend actually played a lot of them. And he's like, I really think you'd like it a lot. But like when I was looking into those games, it definitely looks dungeon crawly. And he even said there's a lot of grinding in it, and it feels dungeon crawly. And those were the words he used. It feels dungeon crawly. He's like, but it's an awesome game. It has a good combat system and this, that, and the other. But he's like, there's some grind to it. And I mean,
I was
like,
about to say, every
RPG has some
RPG
grind
has
to
the
it.
grind.
So like. I get that. But I mean, he wasn't excited about the story. He was just like, it was nice, and like, I'm kind of like, that it doesn't really feel like what I'm looking for. I really am looking for like a second Legend of Dragoon, and I threw Final Fantasy X in there just because.
I would also say the Dragon Quest
one of my
games.
favorites. And,
Dragon Quest is an awesome series. I don't know if you've ever played any of those games. Art done.
No, I think I played the one for 64.
Yep, there was one for the 64. I think that was 5 or 6. The newest one coming out is 11.
But I don't.
But
I don't think it was like traditional turn-based RPG.
It might have been one of like the spin-offs.
If I remember correctly.
But the main series Dragon Quest games are all turn-based RPGs, including this new one. I just looked it up to make sure. But it's done with the artist is the artist who does Dragon Ball Z. So the characters are like very Dragon Ball looking,
right.
Which I think is cool. But it's a really fun game. And like I said, 11, you have a PS4, as you mentioned, so you can get 11 when it comes out in July. Also, Persona 5. I don't have it personally. I loved Persona 3. Never played Persona 4.
I hated them.
But everyone I know who I've talked to about Persona 5 absolutely loves it, so I would definitely recommend that one, although you're giving me the nod of disapproval.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like building up. Like, I just didn't like them. That was definitely dungeon crawly. The ones I played, because I did buy a few, and I was just like, I really want an RPG that I'll like, and it was dungeon crawling. You go into a dungeon and you fight things, and you get as high in the tower as you possibly can, and then you leave. And I'm like, it's just not It's not, and then you have like these weird dialogues and stuff like that. And I get that it's foreign. I get it, that there's some cultural differences, but it just wasn't what I was looking for. I want an engrossed story with an open world feel to it, to where I'm walking around and I'm exploring places, and there's cool monsters that I can summon and stuff like that. That's like what I want. I want the tradition. I want the traditional RPG.
And I think
I
you
hate
can
these.
get them. The thing is, I like. Kind of like what we talked about before we started recording. You're being very nitpicky, like they're all gonna be
sure.
like that. Like even Legend of Dragoon was probably dungeon crawly, and you just don't remember it properly. All these RPGs definitely have this feel of kind of almost repetition, but like grinding and doing. Like Final Fantasy VII has it. Final Fantasy X has it, which is one of your things on the list of things that you really like. Chrono Trigger has it. Persona has it. Bravely has it. Pokemon has it. Phone games. Final Fantasy Exium. Fire Emblem, whatever the phone game is called. Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. They all have this kind of repetition to it. But...
Well, there's a difference between, an open world space and a random dropped arena thing that you drop into. Which tends to be a lot of... We have quite a few games on our list that are a lot like that. So you drop into an arena, you have your little turn-based session going on, and then you go back to some general screen where you can probably have some conversation. And you
now,
can go to different rooms
which
with different
games
people.
on the list are you speaking specifically of? I'm curious.
Okay, so Orc Tactics, which I'm
not
not sure if you're
familiar
familiar with. There's Front Mission, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with. But I'm sure these other ones are. XCOM. Have you played Valkyrie Chronicles?
No, I've never played Valkyrie Chronicles. Oh
God. Oh God. You have a PlayStation?
PlayStation? No, I do not. I don't have any of the PlayStations. I used to have it too, but it broke. The Tales series is another good turn-based RPG series. I had Tales of Vesperia. But, yeah.
Tales of Vesperia? I actually bought Tales of Vesperia. Yeah. It's JRPG, man. It's an JRPG. I'm not looking for a JRPG. I'm actually looking for real turn-based. That's like... It's not what I'm looking for, man. It's not what I'm looking for. I want a Front Mission. I want a more, open world Fire Emblem. I would love that. I don't like the blank screen, the folding pieces of paper. Here's one piece of paper that has the general map layout that we're gonna rinse and repeat over and over and over and over and over. You're gonna drop into this arena, you're gonna have your battle, and then that'll be it. And then we'll have dialogue, which would sub for the story. But I'm looking for an experience, and it has to be deeper than this, page flipping type of turn-based strategy.
See,
I think we're just not seeing eye to eye right now.
Because any turn-based game, during the combat, you're going to be dropped into an arena. Guaranteed. You can't do turn-based without an arena. You can't just open-world turn-based, because that doesn't make any goddamn sense. Now, you can have the open-world story setting, kind of like Final Fantasy X, and then when you battle, phase into it, or Pokemon, or South Park Stick of Truth.
That's what I'm looking for.
South Park Stick of Truth, that's another one.
That's
what
I'm looking for.
Turn-based RPG that is an essentially open world. I mean, open South Park, and it just phases you into battles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not hard.
Like I said,
possible.
There are
Doable.
some. It's just that nowadays, because the market is tending to lean towards the action RPGs, because those are the ones that sell. So you have The Witcher, you have the Dragon Age games, you have Horizon Zero Dawn, even the Tomb Raider games you can even kind of consider open world RPG type things. So it's a different time. It's with greater technology, people want to have more control of what they're doing, and I think that's why it's tending to lean towards the action RPGs. I get what you're saying. I wish there was more. I wish every fucking game was a turn-based RPG. I'd fucking play a wrestling turn-based RPG, or a fucking sports game that was a turn-based RPG if that was a goddamn option. But it's not, because I would buy it, and because you would buy it, and because 10,000 other people would buy it, doesn't mean that these Call of Duty heads who are drinking Mountain Dew and fucking all about it are really going to be interested in that. They want to be immersed. They want to control over their character, else they're going to cry on Reddit about it.
I mean, you can't satisfy everybody. But to say that the turn-based strategy market isn't big enough, that they can't make money is crazy. There's tons of turn-based strategy games that meet this requirement. You know, like you mentioned, you know, one of the best-selling games of all time during our pre-little conversation.
Well, no, not of all time, but of this
like,
current time period right now.
Right. Yes,
but
yes,
yeah, no,
I
agree, that's why I think that there is still hope for it. But with the amount of games that come out, I would say probably 30% of the games that are released are shooters now, because that's just the time we live in. We live in the age of shooters, where. Yeah.
No, I respect shooters. I love shooters, but you know, like this is just an argument within the space. Like, I don't want to see the eradication of shooters.
No,
that's not
right,
what I'm going for. What I'm going for is a more traditional sense of turn-based strategy games, you know, and less dungeon crawling. You know, I think, and this is why, you know, I re-said like my little intro. It's not that I'm against the RPGs that exist. It's just that there's a burning passion in me to see turn-based strategy games in the traditional sense on a larger scale. You know, so like even you know, the newest Final Fantasy with like Lightning and
13.
that series, the Lightning one.
I didn't
like it so much, but like it's accomplishable, and people they enjoy it, and it's possible, and it's within their frame of reference. I just think, you know, this whole idea of like, you know, newer is better is just kind of like bullshit.
And I agree with you in a lot of senses. Like,
wait.
You can't hate on the classics. You can't forget what got you there, essentially, and that's kind of a message for Square Enix, because they would not really be what they were as SquareSoft without the turn-based RPG. But at the same time, that doesn't, like, I love turn-based RPGs, I really do, but that doesn't mean I don't also like a good action RPG, you know? So, like, no, I'm not
arguing against that either. I don't want those to disappear. I just want my traditional sense of turn-based strategy.
And I think they do. I think
I've read several articles.
And that's what I was trying to say at the beginning. I think they do. It's just that you're quick to judge them as too dungeon crawly, you know?
They are, though, because you're not really making the argument that they're not. You're just saying, well, that's the kind of times, bro.
All right, so
you know,
so give me an example of a game
sure.
that you would you consider Pokemon too dungeon crawly? No. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
It's open world, bro. You're like walking around, you're going into caves, and you occasionally break out in battles. You throw little Pokeballs. Pokemon come out. You choose out of the 4 or 5 attacks that you're allowed to have, and you know, you have a blast, which is why they sell so much. You know, like the model's proven that it works. It works. You know, people buy every fucking Pokemon. Everyone.
They're fantastic.
You know,
games.
and like
I'm a Pokemon guy myself.
I guess I would if the kind of like situation allowed me to, if I had all the necessary equipment. But you know, like I have my gripes with Pokemon too, though, because I mean, like again, you know, and this is where I think they should explore with the more JRPG situation. Not you actually controlling them, but it should be more. You should be able to get into it, and this is the real argument that I wanted to get into. Is kind of how to improve these things. You know, like they're making subgenres of the genre, and that's kind of what I'm like really arguing for. You know, I want the real genre to kind of stand alone and be and exist. You know, and I feel like it just kind of doesn't exist in the same form. And like, for example, you know, I was gonna segue into like the Legend of Dragoon. There are ways you can level up without completely creating a different subset of games, which is why they started calling them action JRPGs. You know, they had to change the subculture because it's not quite the same thing. Like Legend of Dragoon, I'll go into it now. Like you have the combo system, so a lot like you could change your weapon in Final Fantasy X on the fly. You can change your combo on the fly. And the combos do different things to your enemies, and you're going to need to do certain combos in certain sequences at certain times to get the best out of it. And you have to guess those, and you have to learn those, and then they switch up. Yeah. So like when you think about like Mega Man, and when they started getting a little bit more fancy with it, like the latest one I played was Mega Man 10. I'm sure there's more
Mega Man 10 I believe you know, is the most recent Mega Man.
Okay, so and the big change with that was everybody wasn't patterned. You know, they had a changing pattern. you know, and I think that's what they should do in turn-based strategy games. Is there should be a changing pattern, you know, and if people want to be in more action, you know, there was a Final Fantasy that you had like a time bar, and when that filled up, you had to make your move, and you had a certain amount of time, and you know your enemies would attack if you didn't take advantage of that situation, so you had to think on the fly. And they can add all those different kinds of elements, add the complexity in that way, and you have a much more immersing game to where you're more into it. A lot of things are happening. You're choosing combos on the fly. You have a time limit to where you can make attacks, and they can just incorporate all that stuff. They can incorporate the aeons. They can incorporate the transformations. There's many different ways to add complexity that don't ruin the traditional sense of turn-based strategy.
Did you ever play?
You know, there's.
I think it's called Last Remnant on the PS3 or Xbox
Yes.
360.
Yes.
It was a Square game.
Yes.
That game kind of has like the combat system you're talking about with the time aspect, where everything was like on a timer. Right.
Yeah. And so I actually have a Last Remnant on our list as a grid-based game.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
You know, and I think there's like different ways that they could level up, you know, these types of traditional RPG games. You know, like there's a market for it. And if I make some money and, you know, my company starts making video games, I'll be sure to create one. You know, I already wrote down like the general idea of it, and I guess I'll just kind of do a small reveal. I want to make a Skyrim turn-based strategy game, you know, to where it's like the more you use certain skills, the more your character gets better at those things, and it won't. It'll have a story probably, but it'll probably be a little bit more generic as far as the importance of every character and its effect on the story. But it'll be on a metallic planet, to where people, like, the metal on the planet's alive, and basically, you know, it's like AI fusing with humans, and so like weapons and so on and so forth are formed on the fly. So you walk around with metal on your body. It's clothes. It's everything. It's like a part of you. You have like two intelligence working in one body. You know, so you have you, and then you have like your AI partner who collects other AIs, and they fuse into one AI, and then they create weapons out of that. So it's like, and you, in this, because this sounds so cool, because like, so imagine a city that's made out of this metal, and everybody lives in it, and the AI works with everybody in the city, and then they get attacked. So the city then transforms all its buildings and so on and so forth to large-scale weapons, to where they have battle, and everybody in there is like taking parts of the city and turning them into weapons, and everybody's flying and dropping swords and shooting guns from this AI metal type stuff. And you know, it's exciting. It's exciting. And I had like a few ideas of like how I make the combat system and things like that. But that's just what I want, you know. And then some of the games, because I'll segue back into our traditional argument. I know I'm talking for a little while. Like XCOM.
Yes,
Have you played XCOM?
And I haven't played XCOM 2 yet, but I have XCOM on my 360, and I'm terrible at it.
I love
so
it.
Bad. I get so like hung up on my guys dying. Like it really bums me out, because I'll like name them after friends, and then I'm like, well, that friend is dead now, so I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, that's like one of the great parts of it. It takes so long to.
Oh yeah, and well,
so
and like
don't do it.
they just die. They die too easily, man. Those goddamn aliens are way too strong for a scrub like me.
So what they could do with that to make that more complicated, because like that's a good system. It's a good system.
But I don't know if that system could work in the open world mechanic. You know.
That one kind of doesn't.
I think that one. I think that
one's
one,
fine the way it is.
The grid games, I think, are honestly fine the way they are. Because it's hard to really put the grid. I guess you could with Fire Emblem maybe kind of do it like a Pokemon or Final Fantasy type style, where you'll walk around and then phase into combat grid type things. But the grid always felt kind of like. I don't know. It feels like its own thing.
Crawly. It's almost Dungeon Crawly.
It just doesn't feel right as open world. Like it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. You probably could, but it'd be difficult. I'm sure someone will, because that's technology and the advancement of time, and someone's gonna want to do it. I'm sure someone's playing those Fire Emblem games just like you, and is like, this needs to have more. Like, I want to play as these guys outside of the fight. Yeah. Yeah. Of
course. But like XCOM, you know what? They should have done a few things. Number one, you should be able to go to every mission. So you know how you have that option of choosing the terror missions. Who are like, oh, I want to go to these different places. They should do it more as a troop management thing. So you can send your troops to every one of these locations, but some of them are obviously going to have rookies. So you're going to send 6 rookies to this high swarm level terror mission. To where you're going to just try to save everybody and then evac and stuff like that. And you kind of and that's the complexity that they should have added to that. They should have also made it so you have bases in every place. You have bases in every place, and after a while, the aliens are going to come and they're going to attack your compound. And then aliens should have compounds on the map. So it should be more of like you picking your battle and
so more like a risk.
Which continent
you would
want to
prefer
take
it
over.
to be more risk-based.
Yeah.
Essentially. Well, risk board game.
Right. And they just didn't have enough game modes. It was the same thing. You drop into the arena, you kill aliens.
What it was,
and
but it was very
fly
difficult.
off in the ship.
It was very difficult, and if you fail, you lose. You have to start over from scratch, which that always pisses me off in games. But it is always a cool thing when I can see someone who's like played like a long time, for example, in this is a little off topic, but Diablo 3. Creating a hardcore character, and anytime I see someone who has a hardcore character at cap level, I was like, that took some patience, because that shit's a pain in the ass. Like dying once and you're fucked.
Yeah, straight running.
Oh, I can't.
I couldn't do it. Diablo is
dying
like one of those
for me
situations.
is part of games. I understand that. I know I'm going to die. I accept it, and I'm okay with it. So when I die, it doesn't bother me so much. But playing a game where I can't die would stress me out way too much. I would break things. It would become very unpretty very quickly. But anyway, do you have anything else you want to talk about as far as the RPGs go, turn-based RPGs?
Well, I actually wanted to know your opinion on my thoughts. My feelings.
So my opinion on your thoughts and feelings. I do wish there were more turn-based RPGs. I would like to see an open-world turn-based RPG. I think that would be cool, but I think it would also be weird. But I would be open to it if it was dope enough. Other than Pokemon, because I already love Pokemon and Dragon Quest. I think. I'm trying to figure out exactly how to word this. I think there is a dungeon crawly aspect to games, as you would put a dungeon. There's a lot of dungeon crawly things, but I feel like it works for the games, for me at least. I never really get bothered by the dungeon crawly, but then again, I am a dungeon crawly guy, I could spend 10 hours playing Diablo 3, which is just dungeon crawly. That's it. There's no game, especially after you beat it the first time. All it is choose a dungeon, crawl through it, go. So I'm fine with the repetition. I'm fine with all that. I'm fine with the grind. I'm used to it. But I could understand why someone wouldn't like it and would rather just get straight to the story. But yeah.
It's not even straight to the story. It's straight up Skyrim mode. With a mix of Dark Souls. Look, you go in that area, those monsters are going to fuck you up. You're going to learn your lesson. You want to go that way? Go that way. But I'm just letting you know that there's a few skeletons in there that are going to hurt you.
Yeah.
They're going to bruise you. They're going to hurt your butthole. That's what's going to happen. And so it's like learning where to go. It's kind of like you just incorporate some of the things that make a lot of those open world games amazing.
However,
you play Zelda, you explore everywhere. There's no limitation.
Going off of that, I am more so towards a linear progression as far as zones and stuff. It pisses me off to no end when I'm playing a game and I'm in what I think is the starting zone, and then 3 minutes later I'm next to something that's 50 billion times my level, and there's no way I can even comprehend or do anything to it. That pissed me off. That would always piss me off in fucking WoW too. But it really specifically pissed
Borderlands? You love Borderlands. Borderlands does that.
Borderlands, I never had a problem where
There's
I was
a few zones where
I was over level or where I was under leveled in Borderlands. For me, yeah, I never went into zones.
I run into tons of people with skulls, and I'm like,
yeah,
all right, let's give it a try.
And once again, I also do all the side quests, so I'm never giving skulls a chance to pop up because I'm fucking out leveling them to extreme. But yeah, Yeah,
out
dude,
there
I'm a
grinding.
grinder,
This grinding
bro.
guy Dan.
That's
That's what it is.
Just
This grinding guy Dan.
You know when I stay in the line, and yeah, dude, just straight up grinding. What was that, Clips? I think it was Clips. Yeah,
you're
man.
true to your roots.
Hey, I've always,
True to
I
your
guess
roots.
I've always been a grinder. No relation to the phone app, but I've always been a grinder in video games. It's just what I do. It helps me pass the time.
See, I gotta be immersed. I gotta be entertained.
Yeah.
I gotta laugh. I gotta. Oh shit, that happened.
Yeah.
You know, like I need that. I can't just
like
be like
both.
grinding.
I like both.
Like, oh,
I like both. I like the oh shit that just happened.
Oh, I've seen this dungeon pictures
now,
before.
Great, this is like a 30 minutes where I can just throw on the new Kendrick CD and just kill shit and be okay and not have to worry about story or anything, and then get back into the story. It's like my escape, because if I do too much of it, it's gonna overload me, and I like to just kind of relax every now and again when I'm playing a game too.
So you're kind of one of those guys. See, we have different motivations for playing video games. I literally play it for a little bit of adrenaline and a lot of entertainment. I love a good story. You know, like that's my driving force for video games in general. You know, it's like it's one of the reasons why our first podcast was Halo. You know, it's just like I can fall in love with Master Chief. I can fall in love with the universe. I can fall in love with the weapons. You know, it works. The music's great. The buildings are great. The side, just everything. The exploring, the sense of, because you can do what you're saying and still have this open world thing that I'm talking about. And it can be linear as hell, but like it's open enough to where I don't feel trapped. Like, you know, I just hate the fact that, like, you know, I'm having these matches. I fall into this arena, you know, and I'm like, I've seen this wall before. Like after the third hour, I don't want to keep saying that. I've seen these walls before. This is the same color dungeon. I remember turning left this way before, even though it's a different dungeon. You know, I just don't. You know, it's laziness. It's laziness. It's a way for them to scale a game cheaply, and you know, like there are other ways to get that done. You know, like mind you, I'm not a video game creator, so I'm sure somebody's gonna ream me for that. But you know, if you make a good game and you put it in front of people, they're gonna love it. Period. You know, and I mean, like. Yeah, people would enjoy an end of the mundane Mondays, you know.
And like I said, we kind of hit on this. We have different opinions on games and different. We play games for different reasons. Whereas like I play games to kind of relax and hang out, and I enjoy the art, and sometimes I enjoy the story, but I don't always have to enjoy the story to enjoy the game. Like. There's games that I've played where I think the story is like so it's whatever. Like the first Tomb Raider game, the story was okay. It wasn't bad, but the game was really fun, and I had a lot of fun playing it, and I had a lot of fun being Lara Croft, and it felt like playing, like the visuals were really good, and it felt like playing a movie, which I thought was cool. But
that's what I'm looking for.
And play the Tomb Raider games.
Aspect. I'm not. See, we're running into the same problems over and over and over. There's a hang up there that always hangs me up. I'm just tired of that format. Really, that's what it is. You know, which is why I enjoy first person shooters. Which is, I think this is the biggest reason why I can only tend to play games with friends. Like I have such a hard time playing by myself. It's just not. It's not fun.
I mean,
you know, it's just more of the same stuff over and over and over. And I would prefer to sit in a room with Dan and yell about RPGs and how I used to like it my way.
I mean, like when I'm playing on my Xbox, I'm constantly with people, like on my headset, even if I'm just playing by myself, just because it's cool to have someone there and feel like you're experiencing it with someone else rather than just
together in a movie form, shooting things.
And that's that's friendship these days. That's how friends work. You know, back in the day, you all had to go to a center place, you know, and meet up and play Xbox at Paul's house because Paul has the fucking Xbox and. He's like, yeah, come over, guys, and you go over there and you play, Fusion Frenzy because it's a multiplayer game, and then he's like, now watch me play Halo 2 for 2 hours, and then that was back in the day, and now we can all watch ourselves play Halo 2 and talk about it at the same time, which is great. It's an amazing time we live in.
Party.
I mean,
Halo 2
Halo
was a
2,
good game.
it was. I was bad at it, as I've been bad at all the Halo games. I was actually at my friend's house the other day, and I was watching him play Halo 5, and I was just like, man, it's crazy that people are just really good at this game, and I'm like a chicken with his head cut off every time I fucking play. But
I can't believe your butt.
I'm not.
I'm
terrible
like,
at first-person shooters. I have no sense of safety. I am running.
Oh, you have bad awareness.
I will and I have good awareness when it comes to, Overwatch, and like knowing where people are, but I don't know. I have good awareness when it comes to Overwatch for some reason, but any other first-person shooter, I'm like, gun in hand, run into middle of map. And that's kind of how I play. And it causes me to die a lot.
Well, see, I mean, this is actually bleeds right into what we're talking about. Overwatch has a more linear style to where you start at one end and you work your way to the other, which is a lot more box form. You know, when you think of games like Halo and stuff, they're more open world. You know, there's no, this is the starting point, this is the ending point. In most Overwatch matches, that's how it goes. You start here, you end here. And even in the control maps, to where you all meet in the middle and you get to that control point, that's the end point. So it's like they always start over there, you always start over here, and you meet in the middle, and you end there. That's where the game ends. There, you know? Like Halo, you know, it's like sometimes you fight over in this part of the map. Sometimes you fight in this part of the map. Sometimes you're riding vehicles in random places and you're running people over with your vehicle and stuff. And there's so much more complexity to that game, which bleeds right into what you said. I have less awareness because there's a lot going on.
Also,
and
in Overwatch, it allows
like
me. Overwatch allows me to play a healer, which I'm way more comfortable with than actually shooting people because I am terrible at aiming. But anyway, we're getting a little off topic. We're talking about other stuff now. Let's save this for the next episode. I'm fine with talking about FPSs and stuff of that nature next time if you would have me, because I feel like you're good on that topic and I'll probably learn a lot from you there. All right, well guys, thanks for listening. Lance, would you like to plug anything? I know earlier you were talking about the new featured artists for Money Match Gaming.
Yeah, we have a few new featured artists, music people, producers, music creators. I don't know the proper term, but we're featuring a few artists. Omar, Houston is the Problem, and Phoenix, I think is his name. I might be saying that wrong.
No problem. I will put it. I'll make sure to put it in the description of this podcast for anyone who's curious and checking them out.
Right, and you know they're letting us use their music, and we're sharing exposure and things of that nature. But you might as well plug them now. And then we're also going to be hosting money tournaments for Super Smash Bros. And real soon here, Overwatch. We're just waiting for our updated website, and then we'll go into that. So
yeah,
check us out, man.
All right, guys. Thanks again for listening. I'm Dan Estrada. That was Lance the Infinite, and this was another episode of the Money Match Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to us on here on SoundCloud or on iTunes if this is up on iTunes now, or on YouTube or anywhere else where you may hear this. Also, don't forget to follow Money Match Gaming on Facebook as well as Instagram. That's at Money Match Gaming. And have a great day, night, all of it. Do it up. It's yours. Have it. Peace.
Bye, y'all.